I still see so many companies sending thousands of emails to purchase lists, expecting magic to happen. Welcome back to 5 Minute Friday. I have an idea to share. In 2025, this approach isn't just ineffective, it's actually damaging your business. Today, I'll explain why these kinds of emails don't work anymore, and I'll also share what actually works instead. So first of all, why do these mass cold emails actually fail? Well, there's a couple of things. The first thing is deliverability. So most of these mass cold emails either end up in spam or in the promotions tab. And this is just because of the way that ISPs, so the internet service providers, work. So when Google notices that a lot of similar emails, if not the exact same emails, are coming from one specific account, they are more likely to mark these emails as either promotions or even worse, as spam. So that means that email service providers actually penalize these mass unsolicited emails. Another more recent change, something that happened over the last couple of years, is that privacy regulations are also getting increasingly strict, specifically for email. And then of course there's also the psychological factor, which means that most people will just ignore any senders that they haven't heard about. And some interesting stats here as well is that when you send unsolicited emails to a large cold list, if you have a really bad list, you're probably in the single digits for your open rate. If the list is a little bit better, you might see something like just above 10%. But again, these are really bad numbers for these kinds of lists. And the key point to remember here is that you're not just wasting your time with these emails, you are actually actively damaging your domain's reputation. Now, there are things that you can do to limit this impact. One of them is using subdomains for your automated email sends, but most companies don't even take this step. And there are truly some hidden costs here that are attached to these practices. One of them being that if you damage the reputation of your email send domain, you're not just damaging your email marketing, you're damaging all of the emails coming from that domain. So if you're just using like one domain, let's say company.com, any email address that has @company.com will actually get worse deliverability because of your cold email campaigns that you're doing on that domain. And then of course, any unsubscribes and any spam complaints also have a lasting negative impact for your business. And then of course, there's also the compliance risks that come with it. We have some risks attached to CAN-SPAM regulation, GDPR, and CCPA in California, and many others across the world. But what's even more important to me when I'm looking at how a company should approach these things, it's also about the first impression that this company leaves. You don't really want to be the company that spams, right? And that is a real opportunity cost. So even if you get just a few responses, the collateral damage just isn't worth it. Now, does this mean that you can't do any cold outreach whatsoever? No, there is still a way to do it, but the way to do it is definitely different than a couple of years ago. I'll share some key ideas on how you can still do a good outreach campaign. First of all, you want to focus on quality over quantity. It's really important that you do a research-based, personalized outreach. That will make the difference for your campaign. Next, specifically for B2B, you can use the account-based marketing framework, which is perfect for these kinds of outreach. Also, keep in mind to have a very narrow ICP, so your ideal customer profile, with a focus on deep personalization. So this will make your lists a bit smaller, but your success rate higher. And try to make it part of a multi-channel orchestration. So you're not focusing just on email, but try to reach your customers through different channels so that they will at least recognize your brand name when your email comes in. This really helps as well. One example that I noticed that works well for outreach, which might not be as cold, but that's also kind of the point here, is that whenever you're doing any kind of event, outreach might be a perfect way to reach the participants of that event afterwards. Because they are already familiar with your brand, they are way more likely to respond to your emails in a positive way whenever they come in. The key point here really is that sending out 50 highly personalized messages will always outperform sending out 5,000 generic ones. And then the next thing I want to talk about is an even better approach, which is the permissions-based alternatives. So what do I mean with this? You can also trigger your outreach based on an action that somebody already took with your company. So for example, you have the lead magnet strategy, something you've undoubtedly have come across already, where you first offer a new contact something, and then you can use that as a trigger to reach out to them, which means that they're also way warmer and you're way more likely to get a positive response from them. You can also use a content-driven nurturing, which means that we really build our audience before we sell to them. Social media channels like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok are perfect for this kind of content-driven nurturing. And then of course we also have the event or webinar invitation approach, where you might want to reach out to very specific people to invite them to your webinar or to an event that you have going on. Something that works really well here is if your company is joining a conference, you might be able to reach out to people attending that conference to get them to come to one of your pre-events, which is a great way of building relationships and getting into contact with new leads. And then of course, any introductions you can get through partners or through your network always works great as a trigger as well as using LinkedIn to really build up your profile and get into touch with people you haven't been in contact with before. Then when you see people interacting with your content on LinkedIn, you can use that as a trigger to start the conversation over email. Again, they will recognize your name and you will probably get a positive response. And then of course, because I'm a HubSpot consultant, I want to share some things within HubSpot that you can use for this, and sales sequences within HubSpot are perfect for this. If you're using a Sales Hub Enterprise, you can actually automate this process when you start a sequence for a certain contact. But even with a Sales Professional, you can use sequences, but you manually enroll these people. The way that I personally like to use this is that I have my view with contacts who recently engaged with any of my content, and then I will use this view to add people to a sequence. And the key point here is really that you want to focus on earning attention rather than stealing attention. Now, to wrap this up, there's one key point that I want you to really remember and take away from this video, and that's that quality really goes over quantity when it comes to email outreach in 2025 and beyond. I just want you to understand that if you just send emails to a handful of people, or let's say like 50 people, this will usually outperform what you can send to thousands of people. And this is a really important difference because it will be better for your brand's reputation, but it will also, and more importantly, be better for your results as well. So here is your challenge for after this video. Audit your current outreach process and look if you are still using outdated mass approaches. If that's the case, just take one of these mass email campaigns and convert it to a targeted, personalized approach for just 20 high-value prospects. I think you will see that this will make a very positive change, and I hope it will change your outreach approach in general. Now, feel free to share in the comments what is your best alternative to these cold email campaigns. I'm curious to learn from you as well, and I'll see you next Friday. Bye.